Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
The United States and Russia have reportedly just signed an agreement to push Syrian and Iranian forces away from Israel's northern border. While there's no confirmed word on just how big this proposed ceasefire zone would be, Israeli leaders have already come out with doubts that the buffer zone goes far enough. Iran has successfully infiltrated much of southern Syria over the years amidst the chaos of the Syrian civil war, and that's why Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has fiercely appealed to the world's leaders, especially Russia and the United States, to take action in Syria and keep Iran out of striking range from Israel. While not outright condemning this new ceasefire deal, it's clear that Israel doesn't feel that the United States-Russia buffer zones will do much in keeping Iran at bay. In what most see as an obvious backhand to Russia over this failure, Israel has also just backed the latest UN report confirming Syria's use of chemical weapons on innocent men, women, and children earlier this year. An official probe into that alleged attack was vetoed by Russia not long ago, but by backing criticisms of Syria, one of Russia's biggest allies, Israel is sending the message that red lines will not be crossed. Making good on its warning just a few days ago against acts of terror, the Israeli army has just arrested a top commander of the West Bank's Islamic Jihad terror group. The Shin Bet has just confirmed that Tariq Ka'adan, who runs the group's terror activities in the West Bank, is now in custody, along with 13 additional Palestinian suspects. Less than 48 hours ago, the IDF's Major General issued a stern video warning to the Islamic Jihad group that Israel was aware of their plans to carry out an attack, and that Israel was ready to respond. Tensions have been on the rise ever since Israel destroyed a Gaza terror tunnel that breached Israeli territory, killing 14 members of the Islamic Jihad in Gaza. The group was apparently warned against retaliation by the Palestinians, since an armed conflict with Israel would almost certainly derail the ongoing Palestinian unity talks. Israel has a vested interest in those talks proceeding uninterrupted as well, which is why the army warned Islamic Jihad against inciting violence, and even went so far as to arrest one of the group's top leaders at the height of these tensions. And just a day before the arrest, Prime Minister Netanyahu had even warned specifically, quote, "We will take a very strong hand against anyone who tries to attack us or attacks us from any sector," end quote. Despite constant objections over bias and literally dozens of other serious and far more deadly issues around the world to choose from, the United Nations General Assembly is again expected to vote on a whopping 9 anti-Israel draft resolutions. The drafts were submitted and affirmed in New York last Friday, and among them are resolutions that condemn Israel's continued presence in the Golan Heights and that call East Jerusalem occupied territory. Additionally, the number of drafted anti-Israel propositions are expected to rise to nearly 20 by next month's voting session. The Palestinians have lauded the entries as evidence of international understanding of their plight. The Syrian representatives went even further, claiming Israel and the Islamic State are cooperating, and Iran told the Israeli UN representatives to go back to synagogue and, quote, repent for their regime's sins, end quote. The United States, of course, concluded with Israel that the UN was again submitting a disproportionate number of unfair resolutions against the Jewish state. The United States UN rep said that the United States is, quote, disappointed that despite support for reform, the member states continue to single out Israel with these resolutions. As the United States has made clear repeatedly this year, this dynamic is unacceptable, end quote. For example, the resolutions that condemn Israel are all lacking in any mention of Palestinian violence and Hamas's terror activities, among other things. The United States representative concluded that the one-sided approach damages and undermines the prospects for peace. The Israeli UN envoy then chimed in as well, lamenting the United Nations' continued focus on Israel at the expense of all the real tragedies elsewhere. The first major reports following Palestinian Authority President Abbas's visit to Saudi Arabia last week are now coming out, and according to Israel's Channel 10 News, it seems like the pressure on Abbas is on. Reports suggest that while in Riyadh, by the request of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Abbas was ordered to either accept the upcoming United States proposed Israel-Palestinian peace deal or resign. Further, Abbas was also allegedly ordered to, quote, stay away from Iranian influence, including through proxies like Hezbollah, Lebanon, and parts of Hamas. All of this comes at the same time as Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri appears to have defected to Saudi Arabia and resigned. Further evidence of the Sunni Saudi Arabia puffing its chest out against Shiite Iran's growing influence in the Middle East. Whatever their reasons, though, it would appear that Israel stands to benefit from the Saudi coercion, as putting pressure on Abbas to not only come to the negotiation table, but to finally sign an agreement can't possibly hurt the peace process. Further, limiting Palestinian interaction with terror organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas's armed wing is a win-win for Israel and the Palestinian unity talks, too. Now, this is probably going to be the best news Israelis will hear all month. Israel's Minister of Justice has just announced that Israel and the United States are closing in on the mother of all deals, a visa exemption for any Israeli to enter the United States of America. Now, let me just give this a little perspective. At the moment, if Israelis want to enter the United States, even as a tourist, they must first apply for a visa with the United States government for a sizable fee. Those people whose applications are considered, and unfortunately many are not even after they've been paid, must then interview with an official at the United States Embassy in Tel Aviv. For most Israelis, this is a stressful, scrutinous experience because they have to justify their reasons for visiting the US. While some Israelis do obtain all kinds of visas this way with no problem, countless others are denied entry to the US every month. That's why Israelis are doing backflips over Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked's tweet announcing that Israel and the US have found a way to get Israelis into the country visa-free. Her tweet reads, quote, "Since I took up my post, we've been working with the Americans on joining the select group of countries whose citizens are exempt from obtaining an entry visa to the US. We have found the balance between protecting the privacy of Israeli citizens and United States requirements." End quote.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.